What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Ravens reviewing videos. Today I am going to look at a brand new channel I just found a couple of minutes ago, and it's called Dr. Scary, and this video is called 3 Unexplained True Paranormal Horror Stories. I have no idea if there's videos if it comes to that, but we're gonna have a look at this and we're gonna see if we like this channel, and if we do, then we're gonna subscribe. You too. Then of course, then I'm gonna like the video if I like it. So everybody, join me. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this video because it's review time. Here we go. That wasn't my sister.
I graduated from
okay,
high
so
school
there's
in
the video.
2019 and was promoted to supervisor for a kitchen in a nursing home down the street.
All right.
Since I oversaw dinner, I didn't start work until about 3:30 p.m. and would get home around 10 p.m. So for the first half of the day, I would be completely home alone. I enjoyed that time. Solitude was always nice, especially when you're as introverted as I am. Normally, I would sleep until about noon, but this time I decided to relax on the couch in our main living room and watch Kitchen Nightmares. I remember nodding off and falling into a light sleep, so any small noise would wake me up. The first few times I cracked my eyes open, it would just be from my cats jumping on me, so when I felt the cushion by my feet dip a bit, I figured it was my cat Peach. After a moment, I opened my eyes and realized my younger sister was sitting at the end of the couch, her back facing me. I was half asleep, so I really didn't think much of it. I figured she just stayed home from school sick, so I just asked her if she could move her head a bit so I could see the TV. But she ignored me. Still facing the TV screen, annoyed, I asked her why she was home. Once again, she remained silent. Coming to the conclusion that she was just being rude, I closed my eyes and fell back asleep. After about another hour, I got up and started to get ready for work, and noticed my sister wasn't in the room or in the house. Concerned, I called her. After trying to call her a few times and getting nothing, I called my mom. She picked up, and I asked her if my sister told her where she was going. My mother, confused, asked me what I was talking about. She dropped her off at school before going to work. My sister had been at school this whole time.
Now, who the fuck was that?
I hung up and kept this to myself, convinced I was losing my mind, that it was all in my head. But I remember that moment so vividly. What my sister was wearing, how she was sitting, how I felt a shift in the couch when she sat.
Oh my God.
This wasn't a dream. This was real. It had to be. There was something in my house with me that morning, and it was not my sister.
No, and not your cat.
I kept this experience to myself. As a kid, I had what my parents called a very active imagination, always seeing things.
I don't like when parents do that. No. That means you don't listen to your kid. Do they have imaginary friends? Sometimes, yes. But just go ahead with it. Cope with it. Be a friend about it, not a parent in that case. You can be a parent afterwards. When shit starts to go wrong. But at least pretend you believe them. If you don't believe them, that's fine. Just pretend. Because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel protected. It makes them feel they can trust you with everything. Just saying.
Hearing things and being easily spooked. So I think it got to the point where I just convinced myself this whole experience didn't happen, and that there was some rational explanation. It actually took me a few years to tell my sister about this. Once again, mostly out of fear of being perceived as crazy. And I didn't want to spook my sister, but something she said to me changed that real fast. This takes place in September 2022. My sister and I were waiting in line for a ride at a local amusement park. Every year, my dad's workplace would rent the whole park for employees and their families. We spent most of the day together as a family, but about an hour before closing, my sister and I went to the back of the park to ride some night rides. So it was just the two of us, and the waiting was getting terribly boring. We aren't very close and don't have much in common, so we struggled to have a conversation, and for the most part stood in silence. But out of the blue, she spoke up. "Kat, you want to hear something freaky?" As a lover of all things spooky, that caught my attention, so I immediately replied with an eager yes. And a part of me wishes I said
Shouldn't have said that.
My sister was a night owl, and over the summer she would stay up until 6 a.m. I had just started working a different job after quitting my nursing home position, so I was starting to go to bed at around 12 a.m. every night, and would be up around 10 a.m., so she would be the only one awake. One night, she noticed light coming from the crack of her bedroom door, and she heard both my voice and our mom's voice talking, only it was hard to understand, as if we were either speaking too quickly or just complete gibberish. She quickly grabbed her phone, checking the time, and her confusion only grew when she noted it was 3 a.m. What were we doing awake? Sometimes my mom and I would go to the front window if the weather was bad during the night to keep an eye on a storm, or if there were sirens. We both have a habit of being very nosy, so she figured that's what was going on. After a few minutes, she could still hear the voices and still see the lights. She got out of bed and opened her bedroom door and rushed into the hallway expecting to see me and my mom by the window talking.
Nobody
Only
there.
that's not what she saw. There were no lights on. It was completely dark, besides the illumination from her phone screen, and there was no one in sight. Not our mom, not me, not even the cats were out there. Unsettled and confused, she turned to my bedroom door thinking I was messing with her. She opened my door, and I was asleep with the cats. She goes back in the hall. Mom and Dad's bedroom is also shut. She peeks in, and they're both sleeping. Now, my sister is a rational person. She was always the one to go into the basement first, tell the others that monsters and ghosts aren't real. So she completely pushed this event out of her mind, because in her eyes, it wasn't a big deal. Maybe she was just overtired, or our grandfather's TV downstairs was a bit loud, and that's what she heard. But like my own experience, this kind of sat at the back of her head, and the house grew to be a little less comfortable. She mentioned how after that she felt like there was always someone watching, as if they were tucked in a corner just observing her. She wasn't scared out of her mind, just a bit confused. When she told me that, a pit in my stomach opened up, and I had chills. I laughed at first, because we were in public and I didn't want to freak out. So we went on the ride, and for the remaining time the park was open, we pushed that conversation on the back burner. On our way to meet up with our parents, we started talking about it again, and I finally told her about what happened to me, how I saw her at home that day, spoke to
That's
her,
creepy.
and could remember what she wore. That was the first time I saw her get scared. I wasn't home, she kept saying. What do you think it was then? We still don't know. We don't know if we want to know.
A mimicker.
The only thing we are sure of is there's something in our house. I'm 22 years old, working in the medical field. I'm a floater medical technician at the moment, which means I get a schedule every...
I don't know if you like these stories, but I'm just gonna post it anyways because I do like them. And it's very nice stories because your mind is trying to figure out the images. Even though there's an image behind now, because that's just something you have so you can look at something. But, I'm sleepy. I like the stories. I mean, they're intriguing. And my mind does cope with all those kinds of pictures in my head. I've got a very vivid imagination.
week going to different assisted living facilities all around my state. Sometimes I'm only half an hour from home, but I've driven 3 hours before, and most times they drag on long into the night. Being that I'm not really picky, and I know how to handle myself, and money is money, I usually don't mind the drive. My parents would drive 4 hours to a location for a day trip, and that same day we would drive back. Nothing too crazy, though
No.
it can get a little tiring after working 6 days in a row. I live in the foothills, lots of back roads, lots of trees. I know, typical of scary stories, in the middle of nowhere with spooky trees. But once
Yeah.
again, I don't think much of it. I've lived around forests all my life. I see them as peaceful rather than scary.
Yeah.
I finish
Same.
up this particular clinic at around 6 p.m. And as you know, if you live up north in the winter, it's dark by then. But once again, I'm
Definitely,
thinking
yeah.
nothing of it. I'm tired and hungry, and ready to go to bed. My team calls it a day, and I set up to take my hour and 45-minute drive home. The first half an hour, I'm in town, then on a highway. Smooth sailing, listening to lo-fi music as per usual, using it as my relaxing and meditative time. I keep driving.
Dude, you should not meditate in a car. You know how dangerous that is?
Then I notice a huge crash up ahead, like a 4 or 5 car pileup. Real
Wow.
nasty on this busy highway. So I take an exit off the highway. going to drive around it so I can get home and into my bed quicker, rather than sit and wait for them to clear a path from one of the lanes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I start driving through this town that honestly looks like maybe 3 people live in it. All the buildings are run down. The road is so messed
And they say the woods are creepy. That's creepy.
up. It's awful. My car's poor tires and hydraulic system were begging for me to stop, so I had to slow down a lot as to not stress my car.
No, I understand.
It's dark and really old, but again, places like this exist. A town on its last breath.
Yep.
I've seen them more than a few times from living up and down the East Coast in bad neighborhoods. I'm not going to judge, but I will note this place is just really, really empty. No cars, no lights, boarded up houses. Just empty.
That
I'm
is
driving
creepy.
between 15 and 20 miles an hour. My high beam's on so I can see. It's a clear night, so I have that going for me. As I'm driving past this big fire department, overrun with bare trees, a loud thunk comes from the roof of my car. I quickly pull over into the parking lot of the abandoned fire department. Wonderful, I'm thinking. Get sideswiped by a random dude at a rest stop and dent the top of my poor car in 1 week. I open the door in a panic, expecting to see some tree branch denting my roof. But nope, nothing. I knew something hit my roof, so I go to check behind my car. Maybe it rolled off. Maybe it was a bird or a bat that fell and flew away. There are a lot of trees around here. I walk all around my car, looking into the messed up road.
That's freaky.
Nothing. I chalk it up to be the winged animal idea, and climb back into my car a little rattled. It
But if
sounded
it-
as I
If there was an animal that fell on your roof, you should have had at least this much of a dent in there because it was a pretty hard smack. I mean, it made you completely stop your car immediately. So there should be this tiny dent in there. I mean,
get resituated.
Right?
That's
Could
when I
just be
heard
me,
this
or-
ear-piercing shriek. It sounded like someone screaming so loud their vocal cords could break. I lock my door and start getting back on the road.
good
Calm
idea.
down, I'm thinking. Bobcats are everywhere. You've heard what they sound like before. It's just a bobcat. It's just a bobcat. My
Could
hands
be.
are shaking, and I'm trying to drive out of there as fast as I can. Just a bobcat. Some kids playing a prank. Some homeless crackhead. My car was rattling back and forth as I got up to a comfortable 35 miles an hour, as that was the max my car could handle on that road. I drive another mile through this town, and I'm a few miles from the exit to the highway again. I'm mentally kicking myself for being so scared. Like a little kid, I'm freaking out over some animals. I'm a mile away now, thanks to the helpful yet very beat up and weathered signs. I'm calming down. Maybe it'd be a good idea to play my lo-fi again, as I pause that 24/7 livestream one from YouTube when I got out of my car. Just as I reach for my phone in the passenger seat, something rushes past my headlights. I scream and brake hard. It was yards away from me, in the very distant part of my headlights. I'm crying at this point, shaking so hard I can barely grip the wheel, eyes blurry with tears. I don't care about the music anymore, and even though I'm still reminding myself animals inhabit tree-dense abandoned towns all the time, this situation was still enough for me to get me crying. I keep driving, trying to focus on getting to the highway.
It's just
But
too
that's when I
creepy.
see it. If it's a human, then it's not like any human I've ever seen. On the side of the road, seeming to stand so politely on the sidewalk, as if waiting for me to pass so we could cross the street, was this tall thing. It had sunken facial features and looked naked. Loose skin, a lot of it, sagging
Yeah.
down its legs and arms,
Zombie.
piling at the wrists, ankles, and knees, around its
Zombie.
neck and hanging from its jaw.
Yee.
I saw it for half a second before I slammed my foot down on the gas. I didn't care about my car anymore. I'm screaming now, my onslaught of emotions being too much. Goosebumps covered me from head to toe.
I can
Tears
understand
rolling down
that.
my face. Hands gripping my steering wheel so tight there's nail marks in it. I swerve onto the highway and recklessly into the other lane. I drive at 80 for a little bit, before eventually slowing down and pulling over to the side of the road to sob and call my dad. He picks up instantly, and when he hears my crying, he's all concerned, trying to get my story. I explain everything. I called it a man in some scary monster costume, and my dad instructed me to call the police. which I didn't really want to do. I was already a nervous wreck. Having to explain it or even go back with someone, no way. But my dad insisted, so I called the cops. I tell them I saw a man in the town back there off the exit, in a costume. He scared me really bad. And after a few more questions, the cops said they'd check it out, and sent me on my way. No, I can't be sure it wasn't a costume. I can't be sure it wasn't some weird outfit, and bad lighting at night. I'm not saying all of these events were connected in some way, but what I am saying is, it all happened so quick, it's hard to dismiss it as nothing.
And it
if
scared the
this
shit
was a
out of him.
costume, it had to be a real good one, because it was hyper-realistic, and I saw every single fold and wrinkle, and could even make out a couple blue veins. I haven't gotten a call back from the police about any updates. If there was anyone found with a costume on, stalking the side of the road in a beat-up town at 7 p.m. It happened about a month ago, and I'm better now. As long as I'm in my car, I'm safe. But I no longer feel safe being outside of my car at night. Not even the short walk from my front door to my driveway is safe anymore. I'll start shaking and panting if I'm outside in the dark alone for more than 5 seconds.
That's bad.
I don't know who to tell, and what to believe.
Night shift.
I used to work night shifts as a security guard at the local port. Every night, we had to go do our patrol rounds around the whole perimeter and check every single office.
Yeah.
The rounds usually lasted about an hour to an hour and a half. The place was huge, about a 2-mile radius, and even with the two of us on the rounds, it would still take a while. My coworker Mike had called in sick that night, so I went on my patrol rounds alone, and the lieutenant stayed at the front gate post. Around 2 a.m., I had finished the outdoor round in the truck. Sometimes we used a 4-wheeler or a bike. So after finishing the outside round, I would have to go inside of every single building and check the offices to make sure no office employee stayed overnight. And in case there's an intruder or trespasser on the property. The buildings were really dark inside. The maintenance man would shut off the breakers in the box right before he'd leave. Unfortunately, security didn't have access to those keys. Therefore, I had to use my flashlight to light up the hallways and offices. The offices alone were creepy enough due to the old age. The fact that I had to walk around those buildings alone in the dark creeped me out. It's dead quiet in there that you could hear my steel-toe boots echo through the hallways. The next part is a blur, because I began to get chills and hyperventilate. As I'm walking through the dark office hallways, I began to hear a scratching-like sound on the walls right next to me. I stopped to listen, but the nail stopped as well. I thought it was probably just me, so I continued walking, and I stopped dead in my tracks. The scratching sounds began to get louder this time. I knew that it was nothing normal. This place was rumored to be haunted, and this isn't the first time something this freaky happened to me there. And I had just come out of those offices. I didn't see anyone. At this point, my heart is racing, and I'm right in the middle of the building, with the nearest exit being on the other end of the hallway. Next, I hear pounding on the wall, and I begin to sprint out of there. The pounding followed me to the end of the hallway. This put me on edge for the rest of the night. When I entered another hallway, it stopped. It sounded huge, and I tried calling the lieutenant to report it, but the phone signal in the offices was complete trash. I didn't even bother to finish the round, because I was almost going to pass out. I went back to the front gate and wrote a report.
You have to get out of there.
I didn't even write a report on my other experiences, but I was getting fed up with it, so for the first time in my life, I wrote a report on the paranormal. I don't believe it was something logical, because those punches were unbelievably loud. Whatever was banging on the wall was not human. I mean, I'm a big guy at 230 pounds, and I couldn't even stomp that loud if I tried.
Alrighty, dighty, that was it for Dr. Scary. I liked the stories. I mean, my mind is racing right now. And like I said, my mind is making the video itself. So that's kind of cool. I actually liked listening to it. I don't know if I'm going to do that again for the videos, the review videos. But for now, I'm going to post it anyways because I liked, like I said, I liked it a lot. And I think you can use some more subscribers. So if you guys liked it and you want to listen to it again, please subscribe to his channel. And of course, if you like my channel, then subscribe to mine. And I will see you guys in the next video. Ta-ta for now.